Hey, good afternoon, or actually good morning, everyone. This is the Roaming Prepper. I'm your host, Pete, and thank you for joining me once again. So I wanted to do my Saturday sit rep. I sometimes miss them just because I get busy, but I'm going to do a little bit of a different spin. I'm going to go through the international headlines pretty quick, and then I want to give an update from the State Department regarding the Israel-Gaza slash Palestine conflict. This is going to be an ongoing thing with potential to spread or affect other things. But let's start with the international stuff. So in East Asia and Africa, Fiji is actually getting a late season cyclone, according to the it doesn't tell me who. Okay, well, the Fiji Meteorological Service issued warnings. Cyclone, for those of you unfamiliar with that, is basically a hurricane in the Pacific. They just give it a different name out there. That was it for the Pacific area, other than one report where the Philippine Navy and the Chinese Navy once again got into it with each other. They almost collided, two destroyers, because the Chinese were trying to shush away Philippine fishing boats from Philippine territorial waters, which, anyway. But, I guess that's the new thing, right? Middle East and North Africa. In Morocco, for those of you who may be traveling in that part of the world, Casablanca, protest planned near the U.S. consulate. The protest is planned near the U.S. consulate in Boulevard Moulay Youssef in Casablanca this evening. Heavy traffic and street closures could result, blah, blah, blah. This is typical with any protest. Tunisia also reporting a fraud alert, saying that they're targeting vendors overseas to defraud businesses. Let's see what else from that part. In Kazakhstan and Bangladesh, both issuing warnings. There will be a demonstration in Bangladesh regarding garment workers. In Kazakhstan, there will be another, there's another warning because of the tensions in the Middle East. The U.S. Embassy in Astana encourages U.S. citizens in Kazakhstan to maintain vigilance and heightened personal awareness with increased tensions in the Middle East. The conflict could lead terrorists to attack American interests or American citizens overseas. So that was pretty much it. There were several other warnings. There were a few conference meetings going on as well. I will tell you that thus far, with the exception of the protest in Austin, so Germany and France have basically outlawed protests regarding the Palestine-Hamas conflict unless they get a license, which they often don't, and they have a very limited time frame, which is why you're not hearing a lot from France and Germany right now, because they just were done with this shit and they clamped it down. The UK had 100,000 protesters basically take up that main road that goes across Parliament and Big Ben over the bridge and just goes across London. That one didn't get too rambunctious. They did make some arrests there because people were being assholes. Also, we all saw the incident in Washington, D.C. around Democratic National Headquarters, which is kind of ironic. But in general, anywhere there's a protest, and there have been calls for ongoing protests until a ceasefire is declared, and Israel has no intention of doing that, because the last time they did it, 1,500 Israelis died, and they're like, no, fuck that, we're just going to chase these guys down wherever they are. So they're out for blood. If you haven't had a chance, search for the Hamas tunnel videos. The IDF and some reporters are actually going with the IDF soldiers and taking recordings of their entering these hospitals and them finding tunnels with weapons and whatnot. So super interesting stuff, but that's going to be an ongoing thing. So if you're traveling, be aware that large gatherings could be a target, and there could be protests at the same time other events. For instance, the Passover, Christmas, Thanksgiving, there could be protests, pro-Palestinian protests during those holidays. Those are Christian and or Jewish holidays. So maintain your situational awareness. We've been talking about this on this and many other channels, but just be aware. So what I'll do now, I'm going to jump over to the Israel-Gaza conflict situational report. I'm going to read what I can from you. The report is released on an ad hoc basis. So, U.S. government assistance, U.S. citizens in Lebanon, Israel, and the West Bank and Gaza would like embassy assistance should fill out a crisis intake form that is on the State Department website. Do not fill out the form if you have already done so, because you're going to confuse the crap out of everyone. If you've done it once, the embassy will send the confirmation. They have your info. Don't fill it out again unless you're changing locations. For instance, if you're in City A and you go to City B, so they know where to find you. There are no further U.S. government chartered flights planned. Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv remains open, and you could also try to fly out from Beirut, Lebanon, but that's going to be a challenge because you have to go through Hezbollah-controlled territory. So, yeah. So if you're already in Lebanon, that's how you get out. You can also get a commuter flight to Cyprus, Greece, and the Greeks will have an American embassy affiliate there that will assist any outbound Americans and Canadians to get the next step to get to the mainland or what have you. Some U.S. citizens seeking to depart have been successful departing the West Bank and Israel into Jordan via the border crossings. There's a bridge there, and you will need your documents. And again, that goes back to what I've said before about keeping photocopies of your passports, because if you claim to be an American, you don't have the right documentation, they'll still at least detain you on the Jordanian side of the border until they can verify you, and they'll call a U.S. representative, which by now they're probably getting really good at this situation. Major updates on the conflict. As of today, more than 1,538 people of Israel have been killed, 240 taken prisoner or hostage, and another 7,000 wounded. In Gaza, roughly 10,000 people have been killed and 25,000 wounded. Israel has announced that it has killed over 1,500 Hamas militants that were inside Israel border. Basically, they hunted them down. 33 U.S. citizens have been killed and 10 are missing. Over 150 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank. So that, for those of you unfamiliar, Israel's against the Mediterranean, south, west, on a strip of the coast would be Gaza, but the West Bank's actually to the east against Iran, Syria, Jordan. So that's where that is. Let's see what else. Green Line, Israel. Today, several long-range rockets from Gaza were launched at central Israel, but landed in the Med instead. Air raid sirens were not activated. There is a report that a U.S. destroyer actually had drones headed toward it and promptly shot them down. By the way, this is not the first time the Houthis in Yemen have fired at American ships. They actually fired at my brother's ship, years ago when I say years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. So they've been taking pot shots at us for a while. This is one of the first times they've tried repeated drone attacks. Fortunately, the destroyer that they targeted is an anti-aircraft destroyer, so it pretty much made short work of the drones. Stand by here for a second. Lebanon border, militants in Lebanon launched around 30 rockets toward Haifa. It is notable that the furthest Lebanese originated rockets have reached since October 7th. The Iron Dome was activated and intercepted the majority of them. IDF then retaliated with artillery fire against the launch sites, which probably are no longer there because they're on fire. Over the weekends, militants also fired anti-tank weapons, killing an Israeli civilian. And yesterday, the IDF retaliated against what it said was a series of those targets. So they're going to go back and forth. So again, if you have to leave Israel, you're better off going toward Jordan or going towards Cyprus or getting out directly from Tel Aviv than you are trying to screw with either Lebanon or going south to Egypt, because all the the Palestinian people in Gaza are trying to go to Egypt also. You're going to get hung up in all that. So you don't want to be evacuating where the herd is going, because all the civilians are panicking while the IDF and Hamas are beating the crap out of each other. Hostage situation. Hamas militant wing claims 60 hostages were missing after Israeli airstrikes. Cannot be verified. They may have killed them themselves. The Israelis might have killed them by accident. It's going to be hard to say. A lot of people are getting very emotional about, well, Israel's committing genocide or Hamas is committing genocide. This is war. And not as someone who has been in a war, but who has trained to be in a war. And just from the accounts I've heard from the guys I deal with, it's chaotic. It's insane. Look at Maui, look at the hurricanes. You have something abruptly happen to people, and there's a lot of confusion. People don't know how to react, and the majority of folks are not prepared for a damn blackout, much less, a small version of World War III breaking out in their community. So you're going to see a lot of these reports where people are like, you killed these guys, and people are like, I can't find the bodies. I don't know. And it's not like they didn't kill them or they did kill them. Nobody can verify, because going there will get you shot by a sniper. It's just a reality of the situation. Those of you who've been in combat could probably speak to it much better than I just did. U.S.-related updates. The U.S. Secretary of State said his talks in Turkey were focused on expanding humanitarian aid to the civilians that are affected. The U.S. has deployed the Ohio-class guided missile submarine to the region. And New York Times quoted officials as saying the White House has sent messages to Iran and Hezbollah warning that the U.S. would intervene militarily if attacks were launched against Israel. And as of a day or so ago, Iran said that they will not support Hamas militarily because, according to Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas did not forewarn Iran or get blessings to go execute a mass attack like that. I call bullshit, because somebody trained these guys, right? They didn't train in that little strip on the coast in Gaza. They were trained somewhere else. They gathered and they executed a very, very good and very bloody attack. And but that's how Iran will save face and avoid provoking the U.S., because they know at this point the U.S. is going to start bombing Iranian assets, and they don't want to do that. Middle East, North Africa region. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula leader calls for Muslims to kill Jewish people in the U.S. and U.K. And U.S. and U.K. nationals globally. I'm going to repeat that since I kind of misread it. I lost my glasses again, by the way. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP leader calls on Muslims to kill Jewish peoples and U.S. and U.K. nationals globally. Okay, so I kind of read that wrong the first time I read it. Was Jewish, U.S. and U.K. No, Jewish and U.S. and U.K. citizens globally. So they're not distinguishing between Christians, Jews, black, white, purple, whatever. They want to kill all of you. Would intervene. Nope, sorry, wrong one. He highlighted ships and aircraft are targets for places to attack the above group. The FBI director warned that the October 7th Hamas attacks will likely inspire significant terror threats. Now, I made a video, I think the Angry Prepper just made one, about the list of cities that would be simultaneously attacked. Bentley doesn't agree with that. That being said, neither myself nor the Angry Prepper doesn't sound like from his video. None of us could confirm exactly where the entire list came from. Some of it looks like an ongoing list of major cities, which, it's a no-brainer. If I was a terrorist, I'd attack New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, so on and so forth. But this should keep you aware that you can have people who may target civilians just in their area. As a matter of fact, they recently arrested a individual, pro-Hamas individual in Houston, because he had expressed to a friend or to a group on Facebook that he was going to attack a synagogue, and he actually had purchased both one illegal and several legal weapons with the intent of going and executing an attack, but the law enforcement was notified somehow, and he wound up in jail. So Okay, other regional implications. Anti-Semitism is on the rise globally. Denmark, a march is planned in Copenhagen, starting in Puhajinis Plaids, I don't know what the hell that is, and ending at the U.S. Embassy. Turkey, yesterday hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters left a rally and attempted to storm Incirlik U.S. Air Force Base. Police dispersed demonstrated with tear gas and water cannon. Almost 1,000 protesters assembled outside the U.S. Embassy in Turkey. Now, that's something that concerns me because we have American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guard even, Navy, all over the world. And very often we rely on local military, local police to provide the first layer of protection, even though we have security forces within our border of the base, inside the wire, so to say. And the fact that one of the biggest NATO bases in the world, which is Incirlik, almost got overrun by a bunch of pro-Palestinian protesters. Now think about that. All you needed was one or two with, some kind of detonating device to blow a hole in the fence, or even worse, if they gained access somehow, to detonate themselves near an aircraft full of fuel. That would have been a disaster, would have taken the base offline. There are a lot of reports, some of which I can verify, some which I cannot, of foreign nationals trying to get onto American military facilities, not as an immigrant or migrant or refugee, but like literally hiking in the woods. There were reports in Alaska. There were reports on the East Coast. Again, I cannot verify all of this, but that is something that concerns me, is especially for our troops overseas in countries that are kind of friendly to us, but not really. Our troops may be in danger. They could very easily be, that would be a nightmare if an American air base in another country gets overrun and they just take over aircraft, kidnap people. That would be a fiasco. So security services for the various branches will have their hands full going forward. Iraq and Syria, the Islamic resistance in Iraq, comprised of Iranian-backed militias based in Iraq, claimed to have conducted 6 attacks against the U.S. military bases in Iraq and Syria today. Now, to be fair, Syria is definitely a war zone. Iraq's not supposed to be, but it still is apparently. And this, again, this concerns me for our troops overseas, because they're relying very often on local security to protect them. The U.S. Embassy in Lebanon has authorized a voluntary temporary departure of family members and non-essential personnel. Same with the Iraq. And then if you go to the State Department website, they will also mention land and border air travel recommendations on how to get out of the country. They provide several phone numbers, U.S. and as well as for the various crossings to get out of Israel, to get out of, if you happen to be in Gaza, get out of Gaza, which would be a brilliant idea right now. U.S. Embassy alert information. U.S. citizens are reminded to remain vigilant and take appropriate steps to increase their security awareness, as security incidents, including mortar and rocket fire, often take place without warning. And they do give a link as well as some phone numbers that anyone traveling can call if you are going overseas, or if you have family that are traveling overseas on vacation as we get into the holidays. You may want to definitely give them this number. So the State Department Consular Affairs toll-free number is 1-833-890-8595. Nope, sorry. Yeah, I got blind, guys, sorry. Yeah, 1-833-890-9595, my bad. So, in any case, you can also look it up on state.gov. I would recommend anybody who's traveling overseas, make sure you are taking appropriate precautions, have the local currency, plan your trip, have a physical map, copies of your passports and birth certificates, let someone know where you are, give someone else a copy of your itinerary in case something happens and they lose contact with you and they're looking for you. A family member can tell the State Department, hey, my friend, cousin, uncle, dad was supposed to be vacationing in whatever city, and things happened, and now I can't reach them, so they know that you're out there. In any case, folks, that's it for this one. This was kind of a different spin because I wanted to give this information out. There's a lot of good information on the State Department website for those who are traveling overseas. And this is a good lesson for all of us, because even if you're not planning to go to Israel or Palestine or wherever, but you're in another country and things happen, it's good to know how the evacuations work, what the numbers are, how you're supposed to register to be picked up by the U.S. government. So, this is good information, not to freak you out, but to give you an understanding of how things would work if you're physically not in the country. Canada has very similar protocols, and so does Mexico. So if you're from Mexico or Canada, any North American country, they have similar protocols, obviously different phone numbers. In any case, folks, God bless, Godspeed. I will see you on the next one, and you guys be safe out there. Take care and collect information while we can do so relatively easily. I'll see you all on the next video.